Why do you do what you do every day? Why are you even here? You know, a lot of people go to work every day and they're not clear about why what they do matters. It's a really, disengagement is such a massive issue in a lot of organisations, but you are so fortunate. There's such a clear and compelling why. And you know, it's not just about helping women and helping mothers and helping families be more educated and reducing premature birth. It's deeper than that. It's about easing human suffering and creating environments where children and adults and people can thrive. There's such a direct connection, and it's so fortunate to be part of an organisation where you can make that connection. And so often when we think about, well, what is it we have to do? Well, you know, we've got to learn to ride the bike. But why? Why is this important? Why is change important? Keep connected to that big why, because when we change and when we embrace the opportunity of it, we're able to do what we're here to do even better. So being really clear about for the sake of what. Because when you think about taking a risk, having that difficult conversation with someone, making a change, I mean, as I said, we're wired to resist pain, right? We're wired to stay in our comfort zone because, hey, it's comfortable. So we have to be clear about why it is we would take a risk, why we would step out onto new ground. We have to know that there's a purpose, there's something that's more important than the discomfort and the unease and all of the things we'll have to go through. So getting real clarity about why you do what you do. You know, there was a really interesting study that was done a few years ago, and it was about how people see the work they do. Some people just see what they do as a job. It pays the bills. Yep. It doesn't invite you to be particularly courageous. You won't be particularly rewarded if you are. It's utility. It pays the bills. It's a job. Puts a roof over your head. The next category and how people see themselves is a career. Career is something where it taps into more of our passions, our innate talents. We get more rewarded for kind of going the extra mile. We get a sense of success because we're moving up, we earn more money, we've got this nice title or whatever it is. But the people who are the most resilient, the most effective, are those who see what they do as a calling. That doesn't mean to say they don't feel they have a career and it's a job and it does pay the bills. Hey, we need to eat. We want to go on holidays. We want to take care of our family and do things we enjoy. But we feel a sense of true calling and purpose that, you know what, I feel I was born to be doing this in this point of time in my life, that I have something to contribute here. And so I invite you all to think about how you see what you do and how you can be more purposeful in what you do. Because the purpose that you bring to what you do every day doesn't impact just what you do. Like you have to do certain things, and sometimes they might be a bit mundane, and sometimes you mightn't feel like doing them. But it impacts and infiltrates, infuses into how you do it, the spirit that you bring to what you do. And having that spirit, that attitude of enthusiasm, and I feel the energy in the room here this morning, that impacts everything. Because if you do something and you don't really, it's the right thing to do, but you're a bit then you know what? Emotions are contagious. And that filters out to everyone around you that, you know what I'm saying. Anyone here ever met an emotional vampire? You know, you're feeling really good about yourself. And you're like, hey, life is good. I'm here in Florida. And then you go and you talk to someone, they're like, and you just kind of want to walk away and throw yourself off a bridge. They suck the life out of you. Well, the truth is that as human beings, every interaction we have with another human being involves an exchange of energy, positive or negative. And when you're with people who are negative, it's very difficult not to have it kind of just bring you down a little bit. So we have to be so careful to guard our own energy, but we also have to take responsibility for being a positive source of energy for others, for lifting people up, for not complaining about something unless it's to someone who can do something about it, because complaining never solves problems. Action does. And so I encourage you just to think about, what's your why? What is it that lights you up? What is it that gives you a sense of purpose? Because every single person, I believe, is put on earth to do something that no one else can do. Yeah, other people might be able to do the specific thing, but there are opportunities and you have experiences and ways of connecting and touching and moving and transforming and educating in ways that other people will never have that opportunity or won't be able to do it quite the way that you do. So know your why. But as you think about your why, you also have to think about risk. You know, we often think of risk as a bad thing, you know, something to be avoided. And obviously when it comes to women being pregnant, you're like, oh, well, what are the risk factors, right? But you know, risk isn't just about physical risk. I talk about emotional risk. The risk of you feeling like, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, I feel rejected, they didn't say no, they didn't answer, get back to me. You know, they didn't like what I said, I feel whatever it is, that those emotions are what we have to risk. We have to step into vulnerability. But we have to recognize that we have some cognitive biases when it comes to assessing risk. And there's been some wonderful research done in recent years on this. That is that when we look at doing something that involves some risk, whether it's financial risk, whether it's physical risk, but in particular when it comes to that psychological risk, we have a tendency to overestimate the probability of things going wrong and to underestimate ourselves, particularly women. I'm looking at all of you, cute chicks, and we tend to discount the cost of inaction. That is, when we're thinking about, well, I do something or not do something, we tend to go, we'll just stick with what we're doing here. I'll just stick with, I won't have that conversation with that person, even though I kind of know I need to have that conversation because they might get all upset. I'll just step around that, and we're going to get onto that in a moment. But you know, when we don't take action, there is a cost. The world doesn't continue on. Things don't continue on as they are. Things that aren't working well tend to only go further downhill. And so if there's something that you find like, this isn't as I want it to be, don't underestimate that cost of inaction. A few years ago, I took my kids to Nepal for a couple of weeks because I love them to see what the world looks like outside Xbox. And because if you're born in America or Australia, and actually one of my kids was born in Texas and we lived here for 10 years, and we're just extraordinarily fortunate in many ways. And I took them to Nepal and we went on our first whitewater rafting expedition. And I had never been whitewater rafting before, and so they gave us about a 35-second safety briefing. Put on these things, there's the river, there's the big Himalayas, there's these massive mountains with all this cold water flowing down. And it was like, okay, off you go. I was like, I don't think they would do it quite like this in Australia or America. There was no forms to sign. I was like, okay, anyway, all right, let's just, Mother Margaret Mary. So off we went, down the river. And we'd been going about 20 minutes, kids were hollering, screaming, they thought it was fantastic. And then my son Ben yells out, "Whoa, there's a snake in the raft!" Aha! Aha! Now, I might be from Australia, but I am not the crocodile hunter, snake-loving thing. So I move, I'm at the back, I move into the middle, and it was in the perimeter at the front. But I'm like picturing this 12-foot, python. Anyway, you could tell our guide was like, everyone stay calm, everyone stay calm, everyone stay calm. And you could tell he was not calm. I was like, oh, he's worried. Maybe, I don't know if there's poisonous snakes in Nepal. I don't know the snakes of Nepal. So I'm sitting there, and then it's kind of calm, and then we go around this kind of bend in the river, and then there's these massive rocks and rapids you can see just down. I was like, holy moly. And he said, okay, everybody back to position. You've got to get back over on the side to grab your oar. And at that moment, there was that choice. Do I stay in the middle, away from possibly being killed by this snake, or do I move back to the side and avoid our family being thrown out of a raft, hitting our heads on rocks, and dying somewhere in the pool? It was one of those choices. Which do I fear the most? Well, the rappers won. So I moved back to the side, and we got our way down the river until we found somewhere to pull over where the snake was taken out. Do you know how big that snake was? Speak.